Joining us now on India Today eMindRocks, Sayani Gupta and Maanvi Gagroo. Welcome to eMindRocks, first of all, both of you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much.
Okay, to both of you, Maanvi and Sayani, 2 seasons of 4 more shots, please, with another one in the pipeline. Has a little bit of your characters, Damini and Siddhi, respectively, seeped into you?
So no, obviously, I think you more than the character seeping into you, you just get attached to the character. I feel like in my case, especially, like you start, like I see that character as someone separate from me. So I mean, she's like a friend to me, and I want good things to happen. I get attached to her emotionally, and because you begin to understand why they're doing what they're doing, why they're saying what they're saying. So in on those lines, there's a little bit of empathy that you have for the character, and that's what kind of seeps into your personality. And of course, you can, like, if there's certain things that, with any character actually, when you if you like certain things about the character, it's like a person you've met. So you can choose to imbibe those characters. If there are certain characters traits that you don't like, then you can choose to never imbibe those traits. So that's always there. But I think anyway, it's more about, like, we pouring our personality in it, right? Like, rather than the other way around. But yeah, there's a little bit of like a two-way street that happens. There's a little bit of you putting yourself in the character, and a little bit of borrowing from the character into your personal life. So yeah.
Sayani, for you?
I actually completely agree with Manvi. I don't think, I hope a lot of Damini hasn't seeped into me, honestly. I want to have a normal life. But honestly, I think, as Manvi said, you get more attached with more time spent with the character, and you defend the character more fiercely. Even when it comes to, say, talking or arguing with the writers or creators, there are certain things that you don't want your character to go through, and you want to sort of always defend the character and empathize with her, and also make her as strong as possible, and real as possible. So I think it's really like, it's your baby and you have to protect it in a certain way. So that feeling, I think, comes, and especially because it's a series, and you also discover different facets of the same character. So the stuff that I thought Damini was in season one has also changed in season two. So I mean, she's much more vulnerable. She's put her guard down many a time. She's also funny at times. She's also clueless at times, which are also, it's lovely to layer the character as much as possible. And I think that's what's happened. And I think we all have gotten to like each other's characters much more. And also because, I think as friends, the four of us also have things that we feel for each other's characters. So it's quite nice. I think, now that you're asking, I think, yeah, we're all happy with our characters and each other's.
Right, and talking about 4 more shots, it's simply one of the most watched OTT platform series of all time. I remember Pritish Nandi messaged me that 4 More Shots is by far the most watched show. Were you surprised by just this explosion of how many people were hooked onto the show? And what do you think worked for 4 More Shots?
Shy go.
I think, thanks. The thing is, one, there is the first season also did really well, and none of us really expected. We hoped that people would like it and watch it. But the kind of, like, it almost became like a craze, and I don't think any of us had sort of experienced anything like that. And it's not every day that a film becomes also that, with a show, it's more possible for everyone to sort of watch it, and everyone, and there are a group of girls who are talking to each other in the lingo of the show, and it's really become like a cultish kind of thing. And which is strange, because you're sort of watching other people watch your characters and feel all these emotions. And the letters in season two obviously came during the lockdown. I think people were also looking for more content, looking for like positive, fun stuff, because everyone was like locked up at home and wanting to travel and wanting to experience friendship and, spend time with their friends and loved ones. So I think it really it helped them, and people have watched the show like 5, 6, 7, 8 times. It's crazy. Like people would like the fact that somebody would invest this much time and love, and we like literally get like long letters saying that it's changed their lives, and you feel like maybe somewhere it's great that it's connected to people in this like deep way, and you feel also responsible in a certain way. But I don't think any of us could sort of, you can't predict these things. I mean, these are things that you hope happens, but when it happens, it's a little bit too overwhelming actually.
So, for me personally,
Maanvi?
what was very surprising and pleasantly surprising, I mean, of course, it's great that people have watched it and, all of that. But what was very, like, something that I found extremely welcoming was that, despite, like, we all know the show is extremely glamorous and stylized and all of that. And, so there is a lot of times you might tend to miss the actual point when you get busy with the frill and, these things. But the beautiful thing is that people have connected to the core values of the show. Like Shai said, that a lot of like the kind of messages we've got, and that tells you that people have been moved to a certain extent. Like they're feeling these emotions, which is why they're taking out the time to first watch the show and repeatedly and all, and then taking out the time to message us and writing long letters and kind of pouring their heart out. And also you can see that like you can tell from messages when somebody has just finished watching the show, and it's a much longer, much more emotional message, as opposed to someone who's maybe taken time and let it process and then written it after a couple of days. So it's been extremely like lovely and overwhelming and beautiful. Like I think that's great. Yeah.
Awesome. Talking about lovely and overwhelming, there was a time, obviously we've lived in an age where film stars are literally worshipped and they are everything. Even TV stars were looked down upon. But now with OTT, even through this pandemic and the lockdown, one silver lining that I see is that everybody's on the same platform. An Amitabh Bachchan film can release, some Maanvi and Sayani can do something, but everybody will be judged based on their performance, based on the content, how engaging it is. So how do you look at OTT platforms right now versus the theaters for performers like you? That star factor goes out of the window now.
Honestly, I think, and I agree with you in a way that it is a huge leveler, and it's changed things for actors especially who are starting out, and I've always given the example of Pankaj Tripathi, who has always been this exquisite actor. He's amazing in everything he's done. But only with the Mirzapur, you could see him in these huge hoardings, and he's suddenly become like, there were a few months where everyone was talking about Pankaj Tripathi and everyone wanted to cast him, right? So it's not like overnight he had become a better actor. Overnight, the limelight shone on him in a different way like it hadn't before. And that's only possible with OTT platforms. And, with shows, again, with shows like Patal Lok and multiple shows like this, you realize that you don't need a star anymore. You need an actor who's fit to play that particular part, in the best way. And that has also given writers scope and directors scope to sort of flesh out characters which are not your stereotypical hero, heroine, and villain. You have these characters which are much more like wholesome, and they have like a 360-degree graph, growth through the journey of the scope of the series. So it's really changed a lot of things. And yeah, it's true, like the films, the big films, and the shows, it's all on OTT platform. And with the pandemic, honestly, we don't really know when is the next time we're going to go back to the theaters, right? And unless it's a big budget, like huge film, it also doesn't make sense for people to release it, because the theaters are going to cut 50% of the capacity, because because of the seating and everything. So even monetarily, it doesn't make sense for smaller films or any films, other than the huge films, to go into the theaters right away. But again, I would hope that we can get back to the theaters again, because it's a different vibe. It's a different experience to actually watch a film in the big screen.
Also, Maanvi, as I said, why I said it's a silver lining is because in Four More Shots, what we've heard over the years is, "Arey yaar, female-centric film, who's going to back it? Public doesn't want it. audience ko nahi mangta hai, they want some masala. That's all gone. I mean, that was such a misconception. I mean, here's a series where females are unapologetically voicing their opinions, they're unapologetic about their sexuality, and it's a huge, huge hit, this show.
So I'm seeing, I think, a couple of things that have kind of happened together, and it's been a confluence in favor of the OTT platform as a medium, which is that, one, because it's new, so it is the voices are more contemporary, right? Like film and TV were old media; they've been around for a while, so they were beginning to get a little jaded in terms of content and modus operandi or whatever. So because this is contemporary, it's newer, it's fresher, and people are also trying different things. So everybody wants different stories, or they're experimenting with formats and all of that. So so there's a lot of freshness for sure, and because of which there's a lot of and because in our conversations now we are thankfully finally we're talking about things like women being not getting enough good fleshed out characters. So thankfully we're that's kind of seeping into the medium as well. That's one. I think also what has happened is the target audience is very different. I mean, at least in the beginning, when OTT platforms as a medium started and content started being produced on this platform, because it was so film had a certain audience. Television was primarily because of the content that it kind of started generating over the years. It became mainly like our parents' generation or something, like you would watch it at dinner time or all of that. So so there was this whole chunk of people who were our age, like maybe from the age of like 15, 16 to the age of 40, 45, who were not they were not, there was nothing for them to watch except movies and then international shows and stuff. So so you catered to them. So obviously when you're catering to a certain audience, you'll try and build the product in a way that it appeals to them. So the younger, the more contemporary, the fresher the voice, and all of that. Also I think to begin with, that hierarchy itself is wrong, right? Like that film is above television, or one is better or worse than the other. I think that came into being because television is something you're watching every day. It's in your homes, so you feel it doesn't seem that mystery is gone, and films become more elusive, and like the actors become very like, oh my god, film stars, and suddenly you're also seeing them on a bigger screen, and so there was but now because of OTT, because everybody's watching it either on their phones or their laptops or television, so everybody has access to that. So it's suddenly been leveled to that. I mean, the accessibility to the content has just been like leveled out completely. Anybody can access it. So I think so now. So all the other, because that leveling has happened, now the only way you can actually compare or weigh people is on the basis of content, or shows on the basis of content, actors on the basis of performance, or writing, or all of that. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's the anatomy of.
But if I may quickly add to what Manvi said, that it's also the social media which goes hand in hand with this transition, because like she was saying that earlier, this was this larger than life elusive characters that you see on this big screen, and their slow-mo walks or their dance sequences. It was a different experience, and people looked up, like literally looked up to film stars on the big screen, and hence this mesmerizing quality around film stars. And cut to social media, where you can see them without makeup or anything, or hair done, next to their gym or on their bed sometimes, this whole thing of woke up like this and all of that. So, and there is literally no difference between how people are perceived. We are all in the public space, and everyone can look into everyone's homes and personal spaces. So I think the OTT also came at at the same time. So those illusions sort of became diluted, and it all is like in front of you now,
How comfortable were you with the lovemaking scenes, both of you? For Manvi, you first.
No, so of course, I think season one, I was a little more uncomfortable or whatever, because I was also doing it for the first time ever, like as an actor, and that's with anything, right? With if, every time you're doing something for the first time, you're because it's so unfamiliar, you're nervous, you're jittery, or you don't know how it's gonna go. You prepare for it in whichever way you can, and so season one, and of course, and even during season one, during the production and shoot of season one, it changed because like I said, that novelty factor obviously wears off after a point. So and then and you also realize that, I was just like, there was this whole, I was making it bigger than what it is. And it's like any other scene that you're shooting. So but that's something you realize on your own. People will tell you that, but you won't understand it till you kind of do it yourself, because we just make it like build this whole hawa around it. And of course season two, because that familiarity factor was there, not just with the nature of the scene, but also with your co-actors. So that was a lot easier that way. I'm really worried though about season three, because I don't know what that's going to look like in the post-pandemic world, and how that's going to happen, because that's something that's got I think both, in fact, Sayani and I are both pretty like paranoid about that aspect of it. So, but yeah, that's what it is.
Actually, for me, the first season, in fact, it's very funny because I remember asking Manvi that, am I the only one not worried? Because I had done enough. I mean, I obviously went to a film school, and then, I had done a lot of projects that which required intimacy, and I had done workshops with, with different people, and I mean, I knew exactly. I mean, it is a technical thing, and you have to get the technicality right, right? And but otherwise, I wasn't worried at all. And I remember asking Manvi, I was like, should I be worrying? Because, other people were worrying, and I was really not. But, after the first season came out, and then there was so much talk about, oh my God, like, you're showing sexuality like this, women who have complete control over their bodies. Then it became a thing. And I was like, wow, maybe I didn't think about all of this because I was brought up in a certain way, or my exposure, as a human being was different, maybe, or maybe the kind of work, like Manvi is saying, there was no novelty really. I had done it before, and it was never a thing really. It was never something that worried me. I think with time it started worrying me, and now I'm like, okay, maybe I don't want to do it. You know what I'm saying? So it's because later it just gets misconstrued, and people do like these weird videos they make, and then it becomes like viral, and they keep circulating these strange, like, weird vulgar videos, which with the editing actually becomes strange and vulgar. It wasn't like that in the show. So now, yeah, it's out of context. Exactly, it doesn't have a context anymore. And then, they I mean, there was this meme that happened last year, like, not last year actually, this year, right after the second season, which was like half a sentence of what I have said in the show, and I'm talking to the girls, have been taken out, and it's been made into these strange videos, which are very, very horrifying actually. And then, you realize that we are in a country, unfortunately, which is so patriarchal, which is so repressed, that you see a woman talk about half a woke thing, and you have to bring it down and clamp it up and make it into a vulgar thing. So now, after the show, I think I've become a little more cautious, if I may use that word.
Interesting, but the planet is patriarchal, I must say. Okay, I got some questions for you. Firstly, for both of you, what would you say was your magic moment, personally or professionally?
I mean, I remember one of my best moments in life was when I was performing in the IIT OAT in Delhi, IIT Delhi OAT. And it was just like a pin drop silence the moment we started dancing. And it was just one of those moments where you realize how powerful performance is, and it was like incredible. And then, if I can think of, there was one time 2 years ago, I was in the presence of His Holiness Dalai Lama, and I was just standing there. I didn't even go close to him, but I was just standing there in one corner, watching him from a distance and just sobbing. And it was almost like his aura was just like cleansing me from within. It was just one of those magical moments. But yeah, there are a lot, like various kinds of magic moments, honestly.
But it's funny, Shayoni, you mentioned this, the dancing bit, because I was just listening to this one podcast in the morning, which is like the spiritual podcast that I listen to, and they were talking about how, the concept of staying present in the moment, and staying in the now and all of that. And I was just thinking that the only times that I've truly experienced that sensation, or at least the times that I've realized that I'm experiencing that sensation, those times have been when I'm performing, when I'm dancing, like on stage or something. And or like even in front of the camera, sometimes when you are acting. And unfortunately, in front of the camera, it's not as I mean, the idea would be to increase the frequency of such moments even in front of the camera, because it just, there's so much going on a set. There's so many things that are playing in your head, and there's the technical aspect of acting, light and mark, your position, your co-actors, your dialogues, your all of that, your costume, your heel. There's so much happening, but somehow on stage, and especially for me with dancing, it's just that sense of just being lost in the moment and not remembering it, because you were actually truly experiencing it. So I think my and again, and it's uncanny that my other example was also about His Holiness Dalai Lama, and I had a very
Wow.
similar experience where I saw him. I didn't know, and I was waiting for my parents. This was in Delhi, and I was waiting for my parents. I was outside the hospital, and suddenly a car drove in, and and I saw two monks getting out of it, and I was just like, wait, and and it was like this government sarkari car, and then suddenly His Holiness Dalai Lama got out, and I was like, no way. And I just, and somehow it just, again, it felt like, or whatever, maybe I'm romanticizing it, but it just felt like this, everything just came together, because I was also listening. I happened to be listening to Knocking on Heaven's Doors, the song, and suddenly this happened, and I'm suddenly correlating all of them, and I started crying, and I was like, and I didn't know why I was crying. They were happy tears, obviously, but it was just this, like, this surge of emotions that I was feeling. And but yeah, like, there are quite a few moments like that, and I think the idea would be to work towards having more and more of these kind of moments in life.
Okay,
Basically,
finally,
the
I have
Saranch is
I
Manvi and
have a
I are
couple
the
of
same
questions
people.
for both of
Basically, you
you.
have the same right.
From two students from Galgotia's University, I have to ask both of you. Manvi, your question is, in FOMO shots you were seeing portraying body positivity. How often do you think in the industry body shames the artists? And for Shayoni, we've seen you do many diverse roles, from Margarita with the straw to Axon. How do you manage to pull off such diverse roles? These questions come from Anirudh, has asked you, Shayoni, and for Manvi, it's Kriti from Galgotia's University. We'll start with Manvi. I'm completely out of time, so quickly, if you can tell me, Kriti,
Sure,
the
sure.
body shaming question to you. Manvi first.
Yes. Hi, Kriti. No, the thing is, the industry works. It's an industry by definition. So it works on the demand and supply principle, like any other industry. So the reason why we're even talking about things like body positivity and all of that is because these topics have seeped into our daily conversations now. So we feel the need to address them,
Right.
even in our content and things we produce. So so I think it's of course there is body shaming in one way or another. Either it's very vocally, or it's kind of covertly done. But in fact, I was gonna, even when we were talking about OTT versus film and stuff, I was gonna say that, while the characters are written better and more fleshed out for women, and maybe even for men, but somehow the casting process, or the idea of a good looking girl or a good looking guy still remains very conventional. And there are only
Right.
fewer takers for something different and stuff. So And I also feel another thing that a lot of people, which is great, and I respect that and I love that fact that a lot of people look up to me for speaking about body positivity and self acceptance and stuff. But I also feel that I am just living like I people are calling me thin or fat or confident or bold or this or that, whatever. These are adjectives that I've never addressed myself with these adjectives. These are adjectives that people. So I'm just living my life, and that's what I want others to do as well. That you want to lose weight, lose weight. You want to put on weight, put on weight. I mean, just don't attach a positive or a negative connotation to these things. Like, do whatever you want.
Nice. Okay, Sayani, quickly.
Yeah, so quickly, thank you, Anirudh, for your question. And I can only play, first of all, it's Akhune, that's streaming on Netflix now. But the only reason I can do these diverse roles is because I go out and act, man. That's my job. I get paid to do it, and I'm extremely excited to go there and do it every day and do as much as diverse work as possible. So thank you if you think like that.
That was quick.
Okay, Sayani and Maanvi, please keep entertaining us. Both of you are brilliant, and more power to you. Thank you so much for joining us on India Today eMindRocks. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Bye, man.
Thank you.